I'm Mackenzie Williams, 28, and my modest 2018 Honda Civic has never betrayed me, unlike my family. When my parents asked to borrow it for the weekend to chauffeur my golden child sister Ashley and her twins around town, I reluctantly agreed. I never imagined that simple decision would spiral into a nightmare that nearly cost me my career. The scratches and mess were just the beginning of what they'd do with my prized possession. Before I tell you what I discovered when they returned my car, drop a comment about where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe if you've ever dealt with family drama. Family dynamics are complicated, but in my family, the hierarchy was always crystal clear. Ashley, my 32-year-old sister, perched comfortably at the top as the golden child. I occupied the thankless middle position, while my younger brother Ryan, 24, escaped the toxicity by moving across the country to Seattle 2 years ago. Smart move on his part. Growing up, our parents, Barbara and Richard Williams, never tried to hide their favoritism. Ashley's straight A report cards earned prime real estate on the refrigerator door, while my B+ grades received cursory nods. When I struggled with calculus in high school, my mom suggested I just wasn't mathematically inclined. When Ashley needed help with the same class, they hired a $75 per hour tutor who came to the house 3 times a week. My journey through college wasn't smooth either. I worked 2 part-time jobs to cover expenses, while Ashley's tuition, housing, and spending money materialized from our parents' bank account. Even now, the pattern continues. Ashley married her college boyfriend Jacob and had twins, Emily and Ethan, now 6 years old. They live in a house my parents helped with the down payment for, just 15 minutes from our parents' place in suburban Chicago. Meanwhile, I scraped and saved for years to afford my Honda Civic. Nothing flashy, just reliable transportation that I purchased entirely with my own money. A small victory, but one I was proud of. I chose an apartment 40 minutes from my parents, close enough to maintain family ties but far enough for breathing room. The irony is that I've actually made something of myself. After graduating with a graphic design degree, I spent years building my portfolio and climbing the corporate ladder. 3 weeks ago, I was promoted to senior designer at Apex Marketing, a position that came with a substantial raise and the opportunity to lead campaigns for major clients. When I shared the news at our monthly family dinner, my dad said, "That's nice, sweetie," before immediately turning to Ashley and asking about the twins' upcoming school play. Family gatherings have become exercises in invisibility. While everyone fawns over Emily and Ethan's crayon drawings and wobbly cartwheels, I sit quietly sipping wine, wondering why I still subject myself to these dynamics. My parents babysit the twins at least 3 times a week, ferrying them to swimming lessons, dance classes, and playdates. Ashley calls my mom daily, sometimes multiple times, for everything from recipe advice to emotional support when Jacob works late. When I do receive attention, it usually comes with strings attached. "Mackenzie, could you design birthday invitations for the twins? It would save us so much money." Or "Mackenzie, we volunteered you to make the family reunion slideshow, you're so good with computers." My time and skills are expected gifts, never warranting payment or even profound gratitude. This brings me to last Friday afternoon. I was wrapping up work, looking forward to a quiet weekend of Netflix and takeout, when my phone buzzed with my mother's call. "Mackenzie, darling," she began with that syrupy tone that immediately set off warning bells. "We have a small favor to ask." I already knew what was coming. "What's up, Mom?" "Well, Ashley's minivan is in the shop again. Something with the transmission, very expensive. And the twins have swimming lessons tomorrow, then Emily's dance recital practice, and on Sunday, Ethan has his soccer game." I closed my eyes, already feeling the weight of obligation pressing down on my chest. "And you're calling because we thought maybe we could borrow your car for the weekend? Just Saturday and Sunday. We'd have it back to you Sunday night, good as new." "Mom, I don't know. Last time Dad borrowed my car, he returned it with the gas light on and coffee stains on the passenger seat." Her voice chilled slightly. "That was months ago, Mackenzie. I think you're being a bit dramatic. We raised you better than to be so selfish, especially when it comes to family. There it was, the guilt trip, right on schedule. I sighed, knowing resistance was futile. Fine, but please fill it up before returning it. And no eating in the car, especially with the twins. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. You're a lifesaver. Your father will pick it up in an hour, is that all right? I agreed, then spent the next 45 minutes clearing personal items from my car and wiping down surfaces. When my dad arrived, I walked him around the vehicle, pointing out the full gas tank and spotless interior. It's just a car, Mac, he said with a chuckle, using my childhood nickname. No need to be so fussy. I handed over the keys reluctantly. Please make sure it comes back in the same condition, Dad. And no fast food in the car with the twins. He gave me a dismissive wave as he climbed into the driver's seat. We'll take good care of your precious Honda, princess. See you Sunday night. As I watched my car disappear down the street, I had a sinking feeling I'd regret this decision. I had no idea just how right I would be. Monday morning arrived with the shrill beeping of my alarm at 6:30 a.m. I showered, dressed for work, and headed downstairs to the parking lot where my parents had returned my car the night before. They'd dropped it off while I was in the shower, texting a quick "cars back, keys under the mat" rather than waiting to see me in person. At the time, I thought they were just being considerate of my early bedtime, but now I understood their hasty retreat. From 10 feet away, I could already see something was wrong. The normally gleaming black paint had a dull, grimy appearance, and as I circled the vehicle, I noticed several new scratches along the passenger side door. Nothing major, but definitely not there when I'd handed over the keys on Friday. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered, unlocking the door. The interior was even worse. Cheerios crunched under my feet as I slid into the driver's seat. Sticky fingerprints decorated the dashboard and center console, and the unmistakable sweet-sour smell of spilled apple juice permeated the air. The back seats had crushed goldfish crackers ground into the upholstery, and someone had clearly attempted to clean up a juice box explosion with napkins, which were now wadded up in the door pocket. I opened the glove compartment to find my neatly organized vehicle documents now shoved in haphazardly. The emergency kit I kept under the passenger seat had been pulled out, contents scattered. And to top it all off, the gas gauge showed just over half a tank, despite my dad picking up the car with a full tank on Friday. Seething, I called my mother from the parking lot. Good morning, Mackenzie, she answered cheerfully. Aren't you at work already? No, Mom, I'm standing in my parking lot, looking at the disaster zone that used to be my car. What happened this weekend? What do you mean? Her tone was already defensive. I mean the scratches on the door, the food ground into my seats, the juice spilled everywhere, and the half-empty gas tank. Oh, that. She laughed lightly. You know how kids are. Emily spilled her juice, but we cleaned it up right away. And those scratches must have happened at the soccer field parking lot. It was very crowded. Mom, I specifically asked for no food in the car. Mackenzie, we were running between activities all day. The twins needed snacks. We couldn't very well let them go hungry just because of your rules. I pinched the bridge of my nose, counting to 10 silently. The car needs professional cleaning now. Who's going to pay for that? Don't you think you're overreacting? It's just a few crumbs. Vacuum it out and it'll be fine. We're family, we don't nickel and dime each other over little things like this. It's not nickel and diming, Mom. It's about respecting my property and the one boundary I asked you to maintain. I think you should talk to your sister if you're this upset. The twins are her children after all. Classic deflection. I ended the call with my mother and immediately dialed Ashley. Hey Mac, I'm getting the kids ready for school. Can I call you back? Ashley answered, the chaos of her morning routine evident in the background. No, this will just take a minute. Did Mom tell you why I'm calling? Something about the car? Look, the kids got a little messy, but that's what kids do. It's not the end of the world. I gripped my phone tighter. Ashley, my car looks like a tornado hit it. There are scratches on the door, food everywhere, and someone left it with only half a tank of gas. It's just a car, Mackenzie. Her voice took on that condescending tone I knew all too well. You know, sometimes I think you're too attached to material things because you don't have what really matters. Excuse me? I'm just saying, when you have children someday, you'll understand that a few crumbs aren't worth getting worked up about. Do you know how stressful it is managing two active 6-year-olds? You should be grateful you got to help make their weekend special. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Grateful? For having my car returned trashed? You know what? I have to go. The kids need breakfast, and I don't have time for this. If you're so concerned about your precious car, take it to the detailer and send me the bill. Though it might be nice if for once you did something for your niece and nephew without expecting anything in return. She hung up before I could respond. I arrived at work 20 minutes late, still fuming. During my lunch break, I took the car to a nearby detailing service, where I handed over $75 for their express package. As they worked, I found a small action figure wedged under the driver's seat, Ethan's favorite superhero toy. I also discovered my USB charger, a thoughtful gift from my boyfriend James, was missing. That evening, I sent a photo of the toy to Ashley with a message, found Ethan's Captain America under my seat. Also, my charger is missing. The one James gave me for Christmas. Her reply came hours later, THX, he's been looking for that. Haven't seen your charger. Probably just misplaced it yourself. I stared at her message, feeling that familiar sting of dismissal. This was the pattern: boundaries crossed, concerns invalidated, responsibility deflected. But I was trying to be the bigger person. I told myself it was just a car, just a charger, not worth fracturing family relationships over. I decided to let it go, for now. Little did I know, this incident was just the opening act in a much larger family drama about to unfold. 2 weeks after the car incident, I found myself driving to my parents' house for our monthly family dinner. These dinners were tradition, instituted by my mother after Ryan moved to Seattle, supposedly to keep the family connected. In reality, they were showcases for Ashley's perfect family life and the twins' latest accomplishments. I arrived at 6:30 p.m. sharp, a bottle of my dad's favorite red wine in hand. Through the dining room window, I could see Ashley already seated at the table, the twins bouncing in their chairs beside her. My mother bustled between the kitchen and dining room, while my dad carved a roast at the head of the table. The perfect family tableau, one that never quite seemed to include me fully. There she is, my dad called as I entered, barely looking up from his carving. My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Mackenzie, we were wondering if you'd make it. I'm exactly on time, Mom, I replied, handing her the wine. Oh, this is nice, she said, examining the label. A bit dry for my taste, but your father will enjoy it. Ashley waved from her spot at the table. Aunt Mackie. Emily squealed, using the nickname the twins had given me. Look at my new dress. Grandma bought it for me. It's beautiful, Em, I said, taking my usual seat across from Ashley. And Ethan, is that a new watch? He nodded vigorously. Grandpa got it. It tells time and has games. I smiled tightly. My parents' tendency to shower the twins with gifts was nothing new, but it stung a little more each time. Dinner proceeded predictably. Ashley dominated conversation with tales of the twins' achievements. Emily's dance instructor had moved her to the advanced class, and Ethan had scored 2 goals at his last soccer game. My parents hung on every word, exclaiming at appropriate intervals and peppering the twins with questions about their activities. During a brief lull, I saw my opening. I've got some exciting news, I said, reaching for my water glass. Remember that major client I mentioned a few weeks ago? They've selected me to lead their rebranding campaign. It could really be a career-defining project. That's nice, honey, my mother said, barely glancing my way. Oh, Ashley, didn't you say Emily's dance recital is next weekend? We need to coordinate rides. Just like that, my news evaporated into the air, replaced immediately by more twin logistics. I caught my father's eye briefly. Was that guilt I saw flicker across his face before he looked away? After dinner, as my mother served coffee and store-bought pie, homemade was reserved for Ashley's birthdays and achievements, my father cleared his throat. "Mackenzie, we were hoping to ask you a favor," he began, an edge of hesitation in his voice. I felt my stomach tighten. "What kind of favor?" "Well," he continued, glancing at my mother for support, "Ashley's minivan is still having some issues. The mechanic says it needs a new part that won't arrive until next week. And we promised to take the twins to their special Saturday activities." My mother jumped in. "Emily has her dance rehearsal all morning, and Ethan has that soccer tournament in the afternoon. We were wondering if we could borrow your car again this weekend," my father finished. Not asking, assuming. I set down my coffee cup slowly. "After what happened last time?" Ashley rolled her eyes. "Are you still hung up on a few crumbs?" "Seriously, Mackenzie, it's been weeks." "It wasn't just crumbs, Ashley. My car was a disaster, and no one seems to think that's a problem." "The kids are 6, she said, as if that explained everything. "Accidents happen." My mother touched my arm lightly. "We'll be extra careful this time, promise. No snacks in the car." I looked around the table, at my father's expectant expression, my mother's placating smile, Ashley's barely concealed annoyance. Even the twins were watching me with wide eyes, clearly having been told in advance about the grand plans for the weekend that hinged on Aunt Mackie's cooperation. "No," I said simply. A beat of silence. "No," my mother repeated, as if she'd misheard. "No, you can't borrow my car this weekend. I'm sorry, but after what happened last time, I'm not comfortable with it." Ashley's face flushed. "Unbelievable. So the kids have to miss their activities because you're being petty about a few scratches? They're your kids, Ashley. Maybe you should be responsible for their transportation." "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm tired of everyone treating my belongings as community property while showing zero respect for my boundaries." My father leaned forward. "Now, Mac, that's not fair. We're family. We help each other out." "Funny how the helping always seems to flow in one direction," I muttered. Ashley's eyes welled with tears, her standard response when not getting her way. "I can't believe you'd punish Emily and Ethan because you're mad at me. They've been looking forward to these events for weeks." "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply saying no to lending my car. There are plenty of alternatives, Uber, rental cars, asking friends." "You don't care about your niece and nephew at all, do you?" Ashley's voice cracked dramatically. "They ask about you all the time, you know. When is Aunt Mackie coming over? Why doesn't Aunt Mackie visit more? And this is how you repay their love." My mother rushed to Ashley's side, putting an arm around her shoulders while shooting me a disappointed look. "Mackenzie, I raised you better than this." That was it, the final straw. I stood up, grabbing my purse from the back of my chair. "I'm going home. Thanks for dinner." "You're leaving? Just like that?" My mother's voice rose. "We're in the middle of a family discussion." "No, we're in the middle of a familiar pattern where everyone's needs matter except mine." I moved toward the door, ignoring the twins' confused expressions. "Call an Uber, rent a car, figure it out." My answer is still no. I drove home in a fog of anger and guilt, my phone buzzing repeatedly with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. At home, I turned off notifications and tried to focus on my upcoming presentation. The rebranding project was massive, a national retail chain looking to appeal to younger demographics, and my pitch meeting was scheduled for Thursday morning, just 3 days away. I needed to concentrate, to be at my best. But throughout the evening, my phone lit up with calls and texts. "My mother, please reconsider, the children will be so disappointed." "My father, let's talk about this calmly, princess." Ashley, a series of increasingly emotional messages fluctuating between anger, "You've always been jealous of my kids," and manipulation, Emily cried when we told her she might miss her rehearsal. By midnight, exhausted and stressed, I turned my phone off completely. I had an important career opportunity on the line, and I couldn't let family drama derail it. Little did I know how spectacularly that plan would fail. Wednesday afternoon, I was leaving the office early to pick up additional materials for tomorrow's presentation when fate intervened in the form of a wrong turn. Distracted by mental rehearsal of my pitch points, I missed my usual exit and had to detour through the Oakbrook Mall area, a place I rarely visited due to its upscale shops and matching prices. As I waited at a traffic light, movement in the adjacent parking lot caught my eye. A familiar figure pushed a shopping cart toward a minivan, a very familiar minivan. Ashley's supposedly in the shop Toyota Sienna gleamed under the afternoon sun, looking perfectly operational as she loaded shopping bags into the trunk. I blinked, certain I was mistaken. But no. That was definitely Ashley's van, with the distinctive dent in the rear bumper and the "My Child is a Star Student" sticker in the window. The light turned green, but instead of continuing, I impulsively turned into the mall parking lot, pulling into a space a few rows away from where Ashley was still organizing her purchases. Heart pounding, I watched as she finished loading the van, returned the cart, and then paused outside the driver's door to take a phone call. I rolled down my window slightly, the afternoon breeze carrying fragments of her conversation. "Got everything for the trip?" "No, Mom, Mackenzie still has no idea." "Well, she wouldn't understand anyway, always been so uptight about money." "Yes, I'll pick up the tickets tomorrow. They're going to freak when they see where we're taking them." She laughed at something my mother said, then climbed into the van, her supposedly broken van, and drove away, oblivious to my presence. I sat frozen in my parking space, mind racing to process this new information. The minivan wasn't in the shop. It had never been in the shop. They had lied to me, all of them, to try to borrow my car again. But why? What was so important about this weekend that warranted an elaborate family deception? And what tickets was Ashley picking up? I pulled out my phone and checked Ashley's social media, something I rarely did given her tendency to post saccharine updates about the twins' every achievement. Scrolling through her recent activity, I found my answer, a selfie posted 3 days ago with the caption, "Surprise coming for my amazing kiddos." #World of Wonders #Best Mom Ever #Counting Down. World of Wonders. The expensive theme park 2 hours outside Chicago that had opened earlier this year. Weekend tickets for a family of 4 would cost upwards of $600, not including food and souvenirs. Pieces clicked into place with nauseating clarity. Ashley's minivan wasn't broken, she'd sold it. The new part story was cover for the fact that she no longer owned the vehicle my parents claimed needed repair. They were planning to use my car to take the twins to an expensive theme park, all while lying to my face about the reason. I drove to my parents' house on autopilot, rehearsed presentation forgotten. Their driveway was empty when I arrived, but I knew the spare key's hiding place, under the ceramic frog by the back steps, unchanged since my childhood. Inside, the house was quiet except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator. I headed straight for my father's home office, where he kept family financial documents. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A folder labeled Ashley 2025 contained receipts for various bills my parents had paid on my sister's behalf over the past few months. Utility payments. Credit card minimums. A receipt for car detailing dated last month, presumably for the minivan before she sold it. Most damning was a printout of an online marketplace listing, 2017 Toyota Sienna, good condition, 1 owner, $10,500 OBO. Ashley's van, listed for sale 3 weeks ago, marked sold in my father's handwriting, along with the final price, $9,800. I was still standing there, documents in hand, when I heard the front door open. Voices filtered down the hallway, my parents returning from wherever they'd been. "Mackenzie?" My mother's shocked voice came from the office doorway. "What are you doing here? How did you get in?" I turned slowly, holding up the folder. "Funny story. I saw Ashley at Oakbrook Mall today, loading shopping bags into her supposedly broken minivan. Care to explain? My father appeared behind my mother, face paling as he spotted the folder in my hands. Mac, this isn't. Don't, I interrupted. Don't tell me this isn't what it looks like, because it's exactly what it looks like. Ashley sold her van, and you've been covering for her while trying to manipulate me into lending my car for a trip to World of Wonders. My mother stepped forward, hands fluttering nervously. Sweetheart, you don't understand the pressure Ashley's been under. Jacob's hours were cut back at work, and they've been struggling financially. So struggling she can afford a shopping spree at Oakbrook and tickets to the most expensive theme park in the state? Those were purchased with the money from selling the van, my father admitted quietly. Your mother and I are helping them look for a more affordable used car next week. And in the meantime, you thought you'd just borrow mine indefinitely? Under false pretenses? We knew you wouldn't understand, my mother said, voice hardening. You've always been so inflexible about your things, even as a child. The front door opened again, and Ashley's voice called out, Mom? Dad? Are you home? I got the tick. She froze in the hallway as she spotted me in the office doorway, shopping bags still dangling from her arms. Behind her, the twins peeked curiously around her legs. What's she doing here? Ashley asked my parents, as if I weren't standing right in front of her. Busting your little scheme wide open, I replied coldly. The van miraculously healed itself for your shopping trip, I see. Ashley's face cycled through shock, guilt, and finally settled on defensive anger. You don't understand my situation, Mackenzie. You never have. Do you know how expensive it is raising 2 children? The activities, the clothes they constantly outgrow, the expectations from other parents. So that justifies lying to me? Using me? We weren't using you, my father interjected. We just needed help during a difficult time. Help you could have asked for honestly, instead of concocting this elaborate lie. I gestured toward the twins, who were watching with wide eyes. And what are you teaching them? That it's okay to lie and manipulate people to get what you want. Ashley's expression darkened. Don't you dare question my parenting. You have no idea what it's like. You just breeze through life with your fancy job and your free time and your disposable income, judging the rest of us who have real responsibilities. Fancy job? Free time? Are you kidding me? I laughed incredulously. I work 60-hour weeks. I earned every promotion through talent and hard work, not handouts. And speaking of handouts, how much have Mom and Dad given you this year alone? 5,000? 10? That's different, my mother cut in. Ashley has children to support. Children she chose to have. And somehow that entitles her to everyone else's money, time, and possessions? You've always been jealous, Ashley snapped. Always resented the attention the twins get. If you'd settled down and had a family of your own instead of chasing promotions, maybe you'd understand. Years of resentment, of being overlooked and undervalued, erupted inside me. I'm not jealous of your life, Ashley. I'm exhausted by how your poor planning and entitlement constantly become everyone else's emergency. You sold a perfectly good minivan for theme park tickets and a shopping spree, and somehow I'm the villain for not wanting to lend you my car under false pretenses? The twins had retreated to the living room, Emily's eyes welling with tears at the raised voices. I immediately felt guilty for arguing in front of them, but I wasn't the one who had brought them to this confrontation. You don't understand, Ashley said, voice dropping. The kids have been begging to go to World of Wonders since it opened. All their friends have been. Do you know what it's like to constantly tell your children no, to see their disappointment? To know you can't give them what every other parent seems to manage? For a moment, I glimpsed something unexpected in my sister's eyes, not just anger or entitlement, but genuine pain, perhaps even shame. Maybe I don't, I admitted. But that doesn't justify lying to me, or teaching your children that manipulation is acceptable behavior. My father sighed heavily, suddenly looking older than his 62 years. We should have been honest with you, Mac. That's on us. We've been helping Ashley and Jacob financially for a while now, and it's complicated. We may have enabled some poor decisions, my mother added reluctantly, surprising me with this partial admission. But family helps family. That's what we've always believed. Help isn't the issue, I said quietly. It's the lack of respect. The assumption that my needs and boundaries don't matter. The constant invalidation of my feelings. I gathered the scattered papers, returning them to the folder and placing it on my father's desk. I need to go. I have an important presentation tomorrow that requires my full attention. I moved toward the door, then paused. I think we all need some space to reevaluate how we treat each other. I love you all, but I can't keep participating in these dynamics. Mackenzie, wait, my father called after me, but I was already walking down the hallway, past the twins' confused faces, out the front door to my car. As I drove away, I felt a curious mixture of pain and liberation. For perhaps the first time, I had stood my ground without backing down, without accepting the family narrative that minimized my feelings and needs. It hurt, of course it did, but beneath the hurt was something else, the first fragile seedling of self-respect. Little did I know that the worst betrayal was yet to come. Thursday morning dawned bright and crisp, perfect weather for the most important presentation of my career so far. I woke before my alarm, mentally running through my talking points as I showered and dressed in the navy blue suit I'd purchased specifically for this occasion. The Ridgeway account would mean not only a substantial commission but potential national exposure for my design work. I'd spent weeks preparing, fine-tuning every slide, anticipating every possible question. At 7:15 a.m., I grabbed my portfolio case and presentation materials and headed to the parking lot. The client meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. at their downtown offices, giving me plenty of time to beat morning traffic and do one final review before presenting. Except my car wouldn't start. The engine made a feeble clicking sound when I turned the key, then nothing. I tried again with the same result, a knot of panic forming in my stomach. This couldn't be happening. Not today of all days. I popped the hood and stared at the engine, though I knew next to nothing about car mechanics. The battery terminals didn't show any obvious corrosion, and nothing seemed visibly wrong to my untrained eye. That's when I noticed it, the dome light was on inside the car. Someone had left the interior light switched on, draining the battery completely overnight. And there, in the ignition, was a set of unfamiliar keys. I grabbed them, examining the unicorn keychain I'd never seen before. A sick feeling washed over me as I recognized the childish trinket as something Emily would love. With trembling hands, I checked the trunk, already suspecting what I would find, or rather, what I wouldn't find. My presentation materials were gone. The carefully organized portfolio case containing printed proposals, sample designs, and backup materials I'd prepared was missing from where I'd placed it last night. I rushed back to my apartment and grabbed my phone, finding 3 missed calls from Ashley and a text message sent at 5:43 a.m. Mac, I'm so sorry. I borrowed your car last night to teach you a lesson about sharing. Didn't think the battery would die. Left my house keys in your car by accident. Your work stuff is at Mom and Dad's. Please call when you get this. Blood pounding in my ears, I called my sister's number. It went straight to voicemail. Next, I tried my parents' house. My mother answered on the 4th ring, sounding groggy. Hello? Mom, where's my presentation portfolio? Ashley says she left it at your house. Mackenzie? What are you talking about? It's not even 8 a.m. Ashley took my car last night and left my work materials at your house. I need them immediately, I have a major client presentation in an hour. Oh dear. My mother's voice shifted from annoyed to concerned. Yes, she dropped something off late last night. A black case? It's in the entryway. I need it now, Mom. This is my career on the line. We're not even dressed yet, Mackenzie. Can't you do the presentation another day? I nearly screamed in frustration. No, I cannot reschedule a meeting with the CEO of Ridgeway Retail on zero notice. Please, just put the case outside. I'll have someone pick it up. I ended the call and immediately dialed James, my boyfriend, who thankfully answered right away. James, I need help. Emergency. My car's dead, my presentation materials are at my parents' house, and I have to be downtown in less than an hour. James, bless him, didn't ask questions. Text me your parents' address. I'll get your stuff and pick you up in 20. While waiting for James, I called a rideshare as backup and emailed my manager, Diane, car trouble this morning. We'll be at the Ridgeway meeting but might cut it close. Starting now. James arrived in record time, my portfolio case safely retrieved from my parents' porch. We sped toward downtown as I explained the situation, his expression darkening as I recounted Ashley's lesson. That's crossed a line, he said quietly. This isn't family drama anymore, this is deliberately sabotaging your career. We reached the Ridgeway offices at 9:12 a.m., 12 minutes late. I rushed through security, heart pounding, and made it to the conference room where Diane was stalling with small talk. Here she is now, Diane said with visible relief as I entered. Mackenzie Williams, our senior designer leading this project. 5 pairs of eyes turned to me, Diane, our account director Marcus, and 3 Ridgeway executives including CEO Thomas Ridgeway himself. I forced a smile, trying to appear composed despite my racing heart and wrinkled suit. I apologize for my tardiness, I said, extending my hand to Mr. Ridgeway. Thank you for your patience. As I set up my presentation, I realized with horror that several key mock-ups were missing from my portfolio. Ashley must have opened the case, contents spilling out when she transported it. The comprehensive timeline I'd created was gone, along with the color palette samples and material swatches. I had no choice but to improvise, working from the digital files on my laptop and speaking extemporaneously where I'd planned to reference the missing materials. I could feel Diane's questioning gaze as I stumbled through explanations that would have been crystal clear with the proper visual aids. By the time I finished, Mr. Ridgeway's initial interest had clearly cooled. His questions were perfunctory, his glances at his watch increasingly frequent. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Williams, he said when I concluded. We'll be reviewing proposals from several agencies before making our decision. Translation, don't call us, we'll call you. In the elevator afterward, Diane was direct. What happened up there, Mackenzie? That wasn't the presentation you prepared. Family emergency, I said tightly. Someone took my car last night and removed my presentation materials. I'm sorry, Diane. I know I let the team down. She sighed. Stephanie has been hoping for a shot at the Ridgeway account. I'll have her prepare a backup pitch, just in case. Stephanie, my main competition for the senior designer position I'd only recently secured. The implication was clear, my job might not be as secure as I'd thought. Back at the office, I retreated to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and finally allowed the tears to flow. Years of building my career, of proving myself, potentially derailed because my sister thought I needed a lesson in sharing. As I washed my face, trying to salvage my makeup, the bathroom door opened and Rachel from the copywriting team entered. Hey, she said gently, seeing my red-rimmed eyes. Rough meeting? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without breaking down again. Want to grab coffee and talk about it? I've got 30 minutes before my next client call. In the cafe across the street, I found myself telling Rachel everything, not just about the presentation disaster, but the years of family dynamics that had led to this breaking point. My sister taking my car wasn't just inconsiderate, I concluded. It was a deliberate attempt to put me in my place, to reassert the family hierarchy where her needs always come first. Rachel stirred her latte thoughtfully. You know, what you're describing sounds like classic golden child/scapegoat family dynamics. I went through therapy for similar issues with my brother. I always thought I was overreacting, I admitted. That I should just accept that this is how families work. Healthy families don't undermine each other's careers to teach lessons, Rachel said firmly. That crossed a major line, and you have every right to be angry. As I returned to my desk, Rachel's validation echoing in my mind, I realized something fundamental had shifted. The constant self-doubt, the questioning of my own feelings, it was beginning to fade, replaced by a clarity I'd never experienced before. My family's behavior wasn't normal. It wasn't my fault. And most importantly, I didn't have to accept it anymore. I opened my laptop and began researching security cameras for my apartment. By Friday evening, my apartment was equipped with a new security system, 2 cameras monitoring my parking space and front door, footage accessible through an app on my phone. The locksmith had just finished installing a new deadbolt, for which only James and I had keys. My car had been towed to a service center, where the mechanic confirmed the battery had been completely drained by the interior light left on overnight. They also found tiny crayon markings on the rear upholstery that had escaped the previous cleaning. "Kids, right?" the mechanic said with a good-natured chuckle as he handed me the bill for $210, a new battery plus service charge. I didn't return his smile. "Right." As he worked on installing the battery, I'd searched my trunk thoroughly, finding several folded papers wedged beneath the spare tire cover. Emily's drawings, colorful family portraits showing her, Ethan, Ashley, Jacob, and my parents all holding hands in front of what appeared to be a roller coaster. "World of Wonders" was scrawled across the top in my sister's handwriting. Clearly, the twins had been in my trunk at some point, probably when Ashley took my car for her lesson. I hadn't answered any calls from my family since Thursday's disaster. My phone showed 17 missed calls, 5 from my mother, 4 from my father, 8 from Ashley. The voicemails ranged from defensive, "You're blowing this way out of proportion," to tearful apologies, "I never meant to hurt your career," to angry accusations, "If you'd just lent us the car in the first place, none of this would have happened." My father's last message simply said, "Please call us, Princess. We need to talk this through as a family." But I wasn't ready to talk. I needed time to process, to establish security measures, and most importantly, to figure out what healthy boundaries would look like going forward. On Sunday afternoon, I texted all 3 of them the same message, "I'm ready to talk. Caribou Coffee on Main Street, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Just the adults." My mother replied immediately, "Why not at our house? More private." "Neutral location or not at all," I responded. "We'll be there," my father wrote. Tuesday evening, I arrived at the coffee shop 20 minutes early to secure a corner table away from other customers. I ordered a black coffee I didn't really want, just to have something to occupy my hands. At precisely 7 p.m., my parents walked in together, scanning the room until they spotted me. Ashley arrived 3 minutes later, her usual dramatic entrance somewhat subdued. No one spoke as they got their drinks and joined me at the table. My mother looked like she hadn't slept well, dark circles under her eyes despite careful makeup. My father's normally perfect posture was slightly stooped, his expression weary. Ashley couldn't quite meet my eyes as she stirred her caramel latte. "Thank you for meeting me," I began, my voice steadier than I expected. "I wanted to talk about what happened and what needs to change going forward." "Sweetheart," my mother started, but I held up my hand. "Please let me finish. What happened last week wasn't just inconsiderate, it was a deliberate violation of my boundaries that had serious professional consequences. Ashley, when you took my car without permission and removed my presentation materials, you directly interfered with my career." Ashley's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant for that to happen. I just wanted to teach me a lesson." "Yes, you said that in your text." I took a deep breath. "Do you understand that I almost lost a major client? That my position at the company could be in jeopardy?" "You're exaggerating," my mother interjected. "Surely one presentation." "I'm not exaggerating," I said firmly. "My manager has already assigned another designer to create a backup pitch for the client. This isn't a minor inconvenience, Mom. This is my livelihood." My father leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. "We raised you better than this, Mackenzie. Family helps family. Your sister made a mistake, but her intentions. Her intentions were to punish me for not lending my car for a theme park trip you were all planning behind my back, I interrupted. After you'd already returned my car damaged and dirty once before. The car again, my mother sighed. You've always been so materialistic. This isn't about materialism. It's about respect. About acknowledging that my needs and boundaries matter too. I looked each of them in the eye. For years, I've accepted being overlooked, having my accomplishments minimized, my belongings treated as community property. That stops now. Ashley wiped at her eyes. So what are you saying? You don't want to be part of this family anymore? I'm saying I want to be part of a healthier family dynamic. One where everyone's needs matter equally. I pulled a folded paper from my purse, the receipt from the car service center. For starters, I expect to be compensated for the damage to my car. $210 for the battery, $75 for the detailing after the first incident. My mother's mouth fell open. You're charging us? For a family favor? It wasn't a favor when it was never freely given. I placed the receipt on the table. I've also changed my locks and installed security cameras at my apartment. No one takes my car or enters my home without explicit permission going forward. This is ridiculous, my mother began, but my father placed his hand over hers. Barbara, he said quietly. Then, to my surprise, he reached for the receipt. You're right, Mackenzie. What happened was wrong, and we were part of it. He took out his checkbook and began writing. $285, correct? Richard, my mother exclaimed. No, Barbara. Mac is right. He tore out the check and handed it to me. We've been enabling behaviors that shouldn't be acceptable, and it's time we acknowledged that. My mother's face flushed with anger, but she remained silent as my father continued. I'm sorry, Mac. Not just for the car, but for a lot of things. For not celebrating your accomplishments the way we should have. For taking you for granted. He glanced at Ashley. For creating an environment where one child's needs were prioritized over another's. I hadn't expected this from my father. For a moment, I was too surprised to respond. Ashley stared at her coffee, shoulders hunched. I never meant to hurt your career, she said finally. I was angry and jealous and I guess I wanted you to feel as out of control as I feel sometimes. Jealous? I repeated, confused. Of what? Of your freedom. Your career. The way you can just decide to do something and do it, without having to consider how it affects 3 other people. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed but dry now. I love my kids more than anything, but sometimes I look at your life and wonder what mine would have been if I'd waited, if I'd established myself first like you did. The admission hung in the air between us, surprisingly honest and vulnerable from a sister who typically projected nothing but maternal fulfillment and superiority. That doesn't excuse what you did, I said after a moment. I know. She nodded. I'm sorry, Mackenzie. Really sorry. I'll pay you back for the battery. We'll pay half, my father said, looking at Ashley. And Ashley will pay half. It's time we all took responsibility for our actions. My mother remained silent, arms crossed, but she didn't contradict him. There's something else, I said. I need you all to acknowledge that my time, my career, and my property are just as important as anyone else's in this family. No more assumptions about availability. No more guilt trips when I maintain boundaries. That seems fair, my father agreed. I'd also appreciate some genuine interest in my life and accomplishments. It hurts when every family gathering revolves around the twins, and my promotion or big project is barely acknowledged. My mother finally spoke. You're being rather demanding, don't you think? Dictating how we should behave around you? I'm stating my needs clearly, I countered. Something I should have done years ago. And if we don't meet these requirements, she asked coolly. Then I'll need to limit my interaction with the family until we can establish a healthier dynamic. I love you all, but I won't continue to participate in patterns that diminish me. A heavy silence fell over the table. My father nodded slowly. I understand. And for what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've accomplished, Mac. The design work I've seen, it's really impressive. Thank you, I said quietly. We talked for another hour, hashing out specifics, occasionally falling into old patterns before pulling back. It wasn't a perfect conversation, but it was perhaps the most honest one we'd ever had as a family. By the time we left the coffee shop, we had a tentative plan for moving forward, with clearer boundaries, more explicit communication, and a commitment, at least from my father and Ashley, to work on creating more balanced family dynamics. Back at my apartment, I checked my work email to find a message from Diane. Ridgway reviewing our proposal. Requested additional mock-ups. Let's discuss tomorrow. Not a rejection, at least not yet. I spent the next 3 hours preparing supplemental designs, determined to salvage the opportunity despite the setback. The next morning, I presented the additional materials to Diane, explaining candidly what had happened with my family. Family drama happens to everyone, she said after reviewing my work. What matters is how you recover from setbacks. These new designs are actually stronger than the originals. Let's get them over to Ridgway today. A week later, we received word Ridgway had selected our agency for their rebranding campaign, with specific praise for the creative vision and persistence demonstrated in our proposal. I would remain the lead designer. As I shared the news with my team, I realized something important had shifted within me. For the first time, I'd faced a significant personal challenge, stood my ground, and come out stronger on the other side. The family situation wasn't magically resolved, real change would take time and consistent effort from all of us, but I'd found my voice, and I wasn't going to lose it again. The week following our coffee shop summit passed in relative silence. No calls from my mother, which was unprecedented. She typically phoned at least twice a week with family updates or thinly veiled suggestions about my life choices. My father sent a brief text midweek, thinking of you, princess. Hope work is going well. Ashley remained quiet too, though she'd shared a public social media post apologizing to someone special for acting thoughtlessly, vague enough that only I would understand its significance. Then the flying monkeys descended. Aunt Patricia called first. Mackenzie, darling, your mother is absolutely devastated. What's this I hear about you charging your family money for a little car trouble? It's a private matter, Aunt Patricia, I responded, maintaining the calm tone I'd been practicing. Family matters are never truly private, dear. We all need to support each other. Your sister has those 2 beautiful children to consider. Next came my father's brother, Uncle Steve. Hey kiddo, heard there's some tension with your folks. You know they only want what's best for you. Maybe cut them a little slack? Cousin Jennifer texted, hey Mac. Long time no talk. So Mom mentioned something about you and Aunt Barbara having issues? Family is everything, you know? Life's too short for grudges. Each message carried the same subtext, get back in line. Accept the status quo. Don't rock the family boat. I responded to each with polite but firm boundaries. I appreciate your concern, but this is between me, my parents, and Ashley. We're working through it privately. The most surprising call came Thursday evening from my brother Ryan in Seattle. So I hear you've started World War III back home, he said when I answered. Word travels fast, I replied, settling onto my couch. Mom called me in tears. Dad called separately with a much more measured take. And Ashley sent me a novel-length text that boiled down to I messed up but Mackenzie is overreacting. I sighed. What's your take? Honestly? About damn time someone called them out. Ryan's voice held a warmth I hadn't heard in years. I moved 3,000 miles away to escape that dynamic. You're braver than me, facing it head-on. I'm not sure brave is the right word, I admitted. Desperate, maybe. They nearly tanked a major work presentation. Yeah, Dad mentioned that. He actually seemed to get why that was serious. Ryan paused. Listen, I've been thinking maybe I should come visit soon. It's been too long, and it sounds like you could use an ally in the trenches. The conversation with Ryan left me feeling less isolated, a reminder that I wasn't crazy for wanting healthier family patterns. On Saturday afternoon, an unexpected knock at my door set my heart racing. A check through the security camera showed my father standing alone in the hallway, hands in his pockets, looking uncertain. "Dad," I said as I opened the door. "I wasn't expecting you." "I should have called first," he acknowledged. "But I was worried you might say no." "Can I come in?" "Just me, Mom's at her book club." I hesitated, then stepped aside. "Okay." He entered cautiously, as if my apartment were unfamiliar territory, though he'd helped me move in 3 years ago. I offered coffee, which he accepted, and we sat at my small kitchen table in awkward silence until he pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "I wanted to give you this in person," he said, sliding it across the table. Inside was a check, not for the $142.50 he'd promised as his half of the car expenses, but for the full $285. "Dad, you said Ashley would pay half." "And she will, to me." He tapped the envelope. "This is on behalf of both of us, but I wanted to make sure you got the full amount right away." "Thank you," I said, surprised by his follow-through. He fidgeted with his coffee cup. "There's something else I wanted to say. Something I couldn't really express with your mother and Ashley there." He looked up, his expression more vulnerable than I'd seen since childhood. "I've been enabling Ashley for years, we both have. Helping with bills, babysitting constantly, making excuses for her financial decisions." "I've noticed," I said quietly. "What you might not have noticed is that your mother does the same with me." He gave a rueful smile. "All those investments I've talked about over the years? Most of them failed. The consistent income has been your mother's inheritance from her parents, carefully managed by her. I've been, well, a financial disappointment." "Dad, I had no idea." "We've kept it quiet. Your mother, she likes the appearance of success. The perfect family narrative. And I've gone along with it, grateful that she didn't leave when things got tough." He sighed deeply. "But that's created this pattern of covering for each other, making problems disappear instead of addressing them honestly. And we've extended that pattern to Ashley." I'd never heard my father speak so candidly about family dynamics. It was both disorienting and illuminating. "Is that why you've always favored Ashley? Because you see yourself in her struggles?" He winced. "Maybe partly. But it's also, you've always been so capable, Mac. So independent. Even as a little girl, you figured things out on your own. Ashley needed more help, more attention. That doesn't mean I didn't need support too, Dad. I know that now." He reached across the table, tentatively covering my hand with his. "I'm sorry we made you feel less important. And I'm sorry I haven't been the father you deserve." Tears pricked at my eyes, unexpected emotion rising at this rare moment of paternal vulnerability. "Thank you for saying that." We talked for another hour. Really talked, without the performative quality that usually characterized our family interactions. He asked specific questions about my work, listened attentively to my explanations of design concepts, and shared concerns about his retirement plans that he'd never voiced before. As he was leaving, he paused at the door. "Your mother, she's having a harder time with all this. She sent an email, didn't she?" I nodded. The message had arrived that morning, a stiff, formal note acknowledging a misunderstanding about the car situation, with an attached gift card to a car detailing service. No real apology, just a thinly veiled attempt to smooth things over without addressing the underlying issues. "She'll come around," he said, though he didn't sound entirely convinced. "She's not good with change, or with admitting mistakes. But she loves you." "I know, Dad." After he left, I sat on my couch, processing the conversation. My father's unexpected insight and honesty had shifted something in my perception of our family system. It wasn't just about golden child versus scapegoat, it was about deeply ingrained patterns of enabling, secret keeping, and maintaining appearances at all costs. My mother's response came 3 days later in the form of a carefully worded invitation to move forward as a family without any real acknowledgement of the issues I'd raised. I responded with equal care, affirming my love while maintaining the boundaries I'd established. Ashley's evolution was the most surprising. After 2 weeks of silence save for the vague social media apology, she called on a Tuesday evening. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual confidence. "In person, I mean?" We met at a park near her house while the twins were at soccer practice with Jacob. She looked tired, her normally perfect makeup minimal, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "I sold the minivan because we're drowning in credit card debt," she said without preamble as we sat on a bench overlooking the playground. $30,000. Jacob doesn't even know the full amount. I blinked, surprised by this blunt confession. "Ashley. I know, it's bad. Really bad." She stared at her hands. "I'd been trying to keep up appearances, the right clothes for the kids, the right activities, the right family vacations. All while Jacob's salary has stayed flat and my part-time income barely covers groceries. Why didn't you say something?" "To who?" "Mom and Dad already help more than they should. And you." She glanced at me sideways. "You've always had your life so together. I couldn't stand the thought of you knowing what a mess I've made of mine." "I don't have everything together," I admitted. "I just have different struggles." "I was jealous," she said quietly. "Of your freedom. Your career. The respect you get professionally. And I think I wanted to take you down a notch." She wiped at a tear. "It was petty and stupid and mean, and I'm so sorry, Mac." Her honesty disarmed me. This wasn't the performative emotion Ashley typically displayed, the tears that appeared strategically to get her way. This was raw, genuine vulnerability. "Taking the car was inexcusable," she continued. "I was angry after you refused to lend it to us, and I wanted to prove I could take what I wanted anyway. It was childish and wrong, and I'm mortified that I jeopardized your career." "It was a shitty thing to do," I agreed, not sugarcoating it. "But I appreciate your apology." We sat in silence for a moment, watching a toddler navigate the bottom rung of a ladder while his father hovered protectively nearby. "I'm seeing a financial counselor," Ashley said finally. "Dad's helping me set up a budget, a real one this time. And I'm looking for full-time work once Ethan starts first grade in the fall." "That's good, Ash." She turned to face me fully. "I don't expect us to be best friends overnight. I know I've been difficult for a long time. But I'd like to try to have a better relationship. A more honest one." "I'd like that too," I said, surprised to find I meant it. As we walked back to our cars, Ashley asked hesitantly, "Would you maybe want to have dinner with me and the kids next week?" "Just us, no Mom and Dad. Emily's been asking about you." "I'd like that," I said again, this time with more certainty. Driving home, I reflected on the unexpected shifts in family dynamics that had occurred in just a few short weeks. Nothing was perfect. My mother still held herself at a distance, my father was trying but still falling into old patterns occasionally, and Ashley's transformation would require consistent effort to be sustainable. But for the first time I felt seen within my family. Not as the reliable middle child who could be counted on to sacrifice her needs for others, but as Mackenzie, with boundaries, achievements, and a voice that deserved to be heard. 6 months after what my family now awkwardly refers to as the car incident, I found myself once again driving to my parents' house for our monthly family dinner. The familiar route no longer filled me with dread, a small victory in itself. The Ridgeway campaign had launched successfully 2 months earlier, earning industry recognition and directly leading to 3 new major clients for our agency. Diane had called me into her office the previous week to discuss a potential promotion to creative director, a leap I hadn't expected for at least another year. "Your handling of the Ridgeway situation showed real leadership," she'd said. "Not just the design work, which was exceptional, but your ability to recover from setbacks and maintain client confidence through challenges." If only she knew how much personal growth had accompanied that professional evolution. I pulled into my parents' driveway, parking next to Ashley's new-to-her Honda CR-V, a sensible used vehicle she'd purchased after 3 months of financial counseling and overtime shifts at the real estate office where she now worked full-time. Inside, the atmosphere was noticeably different from family gatherings of the past. My mother still fussed over the twins, but she made a visible effort to engage with me about my work, asking specific questions about the Ridgeway campaign she'd seen featured in a marketing magazine. My father greeted me with a warm hug and immediately showed me a photo album he'd unearthed from the attic, my high school art show ribbons and early design projects he'd apparently saved all these years. "I always knew you had talent, Princess," he said, pointing to a particularly ambitious project from my sophomore year. "Remember this one? The principal wanted to use it for the yearbook cover." "I can't believe you kept all this," I said, genuinely touched. Ashley arrived last, the twins racing ahead to show me their latest school projects. Emily thrust a carefully drawn picture into my hands, a surprisingly skilled portrait of a woman with red hair like mine, surrounded by colorful designs. "It's you, Aunt Mackie. I drew you at your job making pretty pictures on the computer." "This is amazing, Em," I said, examining the drawing with real appreciation. "You've got serious talent." "Just like her aunt," Ashley said with a smile that held none of its former competitive edge. During dinner, the conversation flowed more evenly than I could remember. Yes, the twins' activities were discussed, but so was my upcoming business trip to New York for a client presentation. Ashley shared news about her real estate licensing exam, scheduled for the following month. My father talked about his retirement planning, openly acknowledging the financial missteps of the past and his current efforts to rebuild their nest egg. My mother remained the most resistant to change, occasionally slipping into old patterns of dismissing my concerns or centering Ashley's needs. But even she made efforts, serving my favorite dessert alongside the twins' preferred ice cream, asking about James and our plans for the holidays. After dinner, as Ashley helped the kids gather their belongings, my mother approached me in the kitchen where I was loading the dishwasher. "Your father says the boundaries you've set have been beneficial," she said, carefully folding a dish towel. "That they've helped us all communicate more honestly." Coming from my mother, this was the closest thing to an endorsement I was likely to get. "I think so too," I replied. She nodded, then added, "I've scheduled lunch with my friend Margaret next week. Her daughter Judith is a therapist, specializing in family dynamics." She smoothed the already perfect towel. "Margaret says she's been very helpful to their family. I thought perhaps I might consult with her. Professionally." I nearly dropped the plate I was rinsing. My mother, considering therapy? The woman who had once declared psychology a field for people who enjoy dwelling on problems rather than solving them? "I think that's a great idea, Mom." She gave a brisk nod and changed the subject, but the significance of her disclosure wasn't lost on me. Small changes, accumulating gradually. That had been the pattern of the past 6 months. My weekly therapy sessions had helped me recognize and address my own patterns, the people-pleasing, the conflict avoidance, the tendency to minimize my own needs that had developed during childhood. I'd built meaningful friendships at work, particularly with Rachel, who understood family dysfunction from personal experience. My relationship with James had deepened as I learned to communicate my needs more clearly and set appropriate boundaries. Most surprisingly, my connection with Ryan had been revitalized. After our phone conversation, he'd made good on his promise to visit, spending a week in Chicago during which we reconnected as adults rather than as the siblings navigating the roles assigned to us in childhood. He was planning another visit for Christmas, this time bringing his girlfriend Claire to meet the family. The twins had been an unexpected source of joy once I stopped viewing time with them through the lens of family obligation. Emily's budding artistic talent gave us a natural connection point, while Ethan's earnest questions about computer drawing led to Saturday morning sessions where I taught him basic design principles on an old tablet. They were bright, curious children when not being used as pawns in adult power struggles. As for Ashley, our relationship had transformed in ways I wouldn't have thought possible. The weekly sister dinners we'd tentatively begun had evolved into genuine connection as she slowly dropped the perfect mother facade and I stopped reflexively dismissing her life choices. We weren't best friends, too much history lay between us for that, but we were building something authentic, based on mutual respect rather than competition or resentment. "Aunt Mackie, can I show you my new soccer medals before we go?" Ethan asked, tugging at my hand as I finished in the kitchen. "Of course, buddy." As he proudly displayed his achievements, my father appeared in the doorway. "Mac, before you leave, I wanted to ask you something." He glanced at my mother, who nodded encouragingly. "Your mother and I are planning a weekend trip next month to celebrate our anniversary. Nothing fancy, just a bed and breakfast up in Door County." "That sounds nice," I said, waiting for the request I knew was coming. "We were wondering if we could borrow your car for the trip. Our sedan's been making that noise again, and the mechanic can't get us in until the week after." 6 months ago, this request would have triggered immediate anxiety, followed by reluctant agreement despite my misgivings. But things had changed. "I can't lend you my car that weekend, Dad. I have plans to drive up to Madison for a design conference." I held his gaze steadily. "But I'd be happy to help you research rental options. There's a service that delivers the car right to your house now." My father nodded, showing no sign of disappointment or manipulation. "That makes sense. Maybe you could text me the details of that service? We'd appreciate the help." Simple. Respectful. A request made and declined without drama or guilt. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how far we'd all come. The family system was far from perfect. Ingrained patterns still emerged during times of stress, old wounds occasionally reopened. But the shift toward healthier dynamics was undeniable. My car, once a flashpoint for family drama, had become something much more significant, a symbol of my growing self-respect and the boundaries necessary for genuine connection. By protecting what was mine, I had created space for relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation or manipulation. Life continues to present challenges, but I face them now with a stronger sense of self and clearer boundaries. If my story resonates with you, know that you deserve respect within your family too. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for authentic relationships. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story helped you feel less alone in your family struggles, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, we can't change our family history, but we can write a healthier future, one boundary at a time. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength on yours.